Hello and welcome to the weekly reading from Agastya Purpose of Life. Today's topic is prayers at home. These discourses are translated from Agastya Valipadu. Go ahead, Sister Sumati.
Prayers at home. An elderly devotee with a spiritual bent of mind had spent a few years in some traditional muths. With her strength failing, she finally returned home disappointed that she had not made any progress on the spiritual path despite spending time at the spiritual center. Sage Agastya consoled her
Here,
thus.
what is happening is, this actually happened. There was a devotee who came to our house and she was very disappointed. She had been in a spiritual center for a long time, nearly 10-15 years after her husband died. She was widowed. She left her family. She wanted to find God. So she went and she started serving there. But what happened was they had to do a lot of work, in the kitchen and a lot of things, but they did not give her what she wanted, which is knowledge. They did not give her any opportunity to really understand God, to know God, there was no spiritual progress at all. All they were doing was a few bhajans and then prayers and continue to work all day long. So she was very, very disappointed. So let us see what Sage Agastya says about this.
So Sage Agastya consoled her thus. Only blessings will await those that come in search of me, wanting to walk on the righteous path in the house that I am present. From now on, you do not need to live in any temple or mutt. It is possible to invite that temple, that mutt, the Swamis and God who are in it into our own hearts. What is needed is the knowledge connected with it.
So so this is again something that we have to sit back and consider. How many of us or how many people who we have known have, decided, okay, I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing nothing but service to God. I'm going to go spend time in a religious place. They go to maybe ashrams where there are some gurus or some spiritual, the center connected with the temple, and they offer their services. But how many of them find liberation? And that is what Appa is saying here. How many of them find liberation? Because what happens when somebody goes into an ashram or they go into a spiritual center that is connected with temples? A lot of them go into service again. And then even in the ashram, even in those spiritual centers, the world does not leave you alone, which means you carry the world with you. How is it? The interactions between devotees. You will still find jealousy. You will still find, a rivalry. You'll still find, these things which they have carried from their worldly life in that ashram too. Yeah, I'm not saying all ashrams are like that, not all gurus or not all temples like that, but there are certain places like that. In really spiritual places, say for example, I have myself been to Yogananda Ashram in Ranchi. I spent 15 days there, and as long as you follow what they're trying to teach you, you really have a profound experience. Because the one thing that they told us was, do not talk to anybody. When you go in, do not look at anybody, because the moment you look at somebody, you're going to smile. The moment you smile, you're going to say hello. And once you say hello, you're going to say, what's your name? And then you're going to talk about the background. Then you're going to bring the world in. They even told us it was a silent retreat. So they said, don't even bring your magazines, books that you read outside, newspapers. You don't need that for those 15 days. And that was the most profound experience, because we spent the whole 15 days in silence, constantly meditating, taking part in group activities, but not really interacting with each other, but with God. We would go and sit. Everything was done managed so well that if we went to have lunch, then everybody went in a line, did not seek somebody else out specifically to sit with. So it was like a universal brotherhood. And that is an ideal place where you will learn something. But that doesn't happen in how many spiritual centers or even spiritual activities. When we go to say a satsang, what do? We say, hey, I'm going to go sit with that person because I know the person. See, already, you're differentiating there. You're finding somebody who's closer to you than somebody and the others present there. So being in a spiritual center by itself is not going to help somebody go and find liberation. So what is Appa saying there here? He's saying, whoever comes to me and wants to walk on the righteous path will get my blessings. He was at that moment talking about in the house that I'm present, which was Gajraj Swamigal's house. But that doesn't necessarily hold true at this point because, Gajraj Swamigal is not there. But what replaces that? Agastya Valipadu or any spiritual book replaces somebody's home or a center or an ashram, because in really divinely given books, there is an energy which speaks to the person who's reading it, which connects to the person's consciousness. And that is what Appa is saying. And again, he's talking about wanting to walk on the righteous path. Very important words. He repeats this over and over again, Agastya Valipadu. If we want to walk on the spiritual path, righteousness has to be the foundation. There is no other shortcut at all. And then what does he say? It is possible to invite the temple, the mata, the swamis, and the God into our own hearts. He says, you don't have to go somewhere. God will come with you, within you. You can invite all that. The entire atmosphere of an ashram, you can have it in your own heart because it's all in the mind. Remember that. We have to remember everything is in our consciousness, in our mind, and we can change it. We don't have to physically go somewhere. We can connect to this consciousness and bring that energy to us. So what did COVID teach? A very important lesson to all of us. There were 2 years when the whole world couldn't go to any religious place. But what happened? We all started learning to stay in our own homes and pray to God. That was a great lesson that the divine taught us, but how many of us have learned it? So let us continue to see what Appa says.
Yeah. You desire liberation. Your goal is to reach the absolute. I will tell you how you can achieve this in your own home. It is good to have a separate room. That will give you an opportunity to have a small fort between you, your family, and those known to you. When engaging in the outside world, it is okay for you, mother, to live as required. It is not wrong. Do not get involved in unnecessary conversations that occur at home. Do not observe and reflect on how family members behave or act.
Now, Appa is giving this discourse to that elderly lady. However, he's also giving this discourse to each one of us. What he's saying is, for her, because she was a widow and, she was old, he said, it's good to have a separate room. I mean, many of us are not at that stage yet because we are married and it's okay to continue our family life. But if we are old enough and if we have the opportunity, then have your own room where you can actually contemplate a lot more, have that peace of mind, have that solitude to connect with God. Then he says, that will give you an opportunity to have a small fort between you and your family and those known to you. Because what happens when there is no separate room and, if we do not have the opportunity, we are in always a community space, whether it is with the family or the people we are living with. Then what happens? What they're saying, what they're doing, it's constantly bombarding us. Even if we consciously say, okay, I'm not going to read newspapers or watch TV, I'm going to focus more on God. Even the stuff that happens on the day-to-day life will affect us. So he says, if you have the opportunity and if you are single, then try to have a separate room. It helps you develop your own space with its own energy in it. Then he says, when engaging in the outside world, it is okay for you, mother, to live as required. Now, one of the things in this is Agastya always addressed everybody, whether it was a man or a woman, as father or mother, with a lot of respect. In that very word where he says mother to an elderly lady, he's teaching us how to revere others who we know, always with respect. If such a great rishi can say, call somebody mother, he used to call me little mother. That is amazing. We can do the same. We can always start referring to people who are around us as brothers, sisters, mothers, and fathers, because that's what this is all about. It's a world family. Then he says, when engaging in the outside world, it is okay to live as required. See, Appa Agastya is not being very strict. He's not saying, oh, leave everything and just focus only on divine, because he knows in this current age and the life, it is impossible for us to go into an ashram and into the forest and forget everything else. We have to live in this world. We have to pay our bills. We have to interact with others. So he says it's okay to do that. It's okay to do that. But then he says, do not get involved in unnecessary conversations that occur at home. So let us sit back and think, what kind of unnecessary conversations do we have at home? Watch the conversation you have at home with other people in your house. How many times do we argue about things that really do not matter? How many times do we get influenced by something else and then come and fight with our family members? So he says, stop unnecessary talk, because when you remember, whatever your mind is focused on, there your energy lies. So if you do not like somebody and you come and talk about that person, that's where your energy is going. Why are you doing that? So he says, do not get involved in unnecessary conversations. Then he says, do not observe and reflect on how family members behave or act. That is something we all do. Okay, my daughter is doing something, I'll tell her, oh, don't do this. My husband is doing something, don't do that. Wife is doing something, no, you shouldn't do this. Why did you say this? If two people have come to our house, we are talking, then the people leave, and then the husband or the wife immediately tells the other one, why did you say this? Why did you act like this? It is not necessary to look and judge all the time. Let people be. Each one of us is a soul. Each one of us has to learn our own lessons. Where we are parents, we can guide our children gently, show them the way by our own example and behavior. That is the best way to teach people around us, not by saying things, but actually doing what we want them to do. Because righteousness being the foundation, then how we behave, how we act. If we gossip, they are going to think it's okay to gossip. Because if you see this, the natural process in the world is, if we see somebody doing something wrong and it's not being questioned by anybody, we think it is okay to do that, and we just start doing it. But we have to remember the basic foundations of righteousness and live by it. And so he says, don't worry about what others do or say. Focus on yourself. If you're in a responsible position, then gently guide them, but let it be. Don't constantly tell somebody else to do something. The greatest sin we can do is control the will of another human being, because the will is the most important tool that the divine has given us, or the divine in us has given us to achieve things. So when we tell somebody, if they are just reading something or doing something, don't do that. Not because of any other reason, but just because we want to control them. It's not good. So always let people be. That's very important. As spiritual aspirants, let people be. I am also a person who used to think, oh, why are these people just talking only about these things, or doing only going to only to temples? And now I realize it was not up to me. It is their journey. Each soul has its own journey and its own pace, and each soul should be allowed to do what it must do. Then each of us learn our own lessons in our own way. So go ahead, sister.
In the room, keep only a few photographs of some gods and of the Guru who is helping you. Keep the pictures of God a little higher than the Guru. Just offering prayers with camphor fire is enough. It is not necessary to offer prayers with rituals like breaking coconuts. Light the lamp every day from 6 a.m. and allow it to burn until 8 a.m. Do the same at the same time in the evening. You do not have to decorate the photographs or idols of the god unduly.
Now, what is Appa saying here? He's now giving us some more ideas on how to simplify her life, not only the material life, but also spiritual life. He's saying, look at your altar, keep only a few photographs. See, what happens is this: we tend to put too many photographs on our altars. So, what happens is our mind gets kind of scattered. We start saying, okay, Om Agastishwara Namaha. Then we see Ganeshaya Namaha. Then Durgaya Namaha. Then we have 20 gods. If we don't say the names, then we feel, oh my God, I did something wrong. So Appa say, just keep one or maybe a few if you need to. And then he says, keep the pictures of God a little higher than the Guru. So here he's showing the hierarchy of respect we have to give divine people. Now, the next thing is he's saying, it's not necessary to break coconuts all the time. Just do a camphor arati, that's enough. And then he's also saying, light a lamp every day, 6 a.m., and allow it to burn till 8. There is a beauty in the lighting of the lamp. There's a beauty in the lamp that keeps glowing at least for 2 hours. It has more spiritual significance. So Appa is telling us all to do that. Go ahead, sister.
Before going to bed, sit with closed eyes and in meditation, speak with your Guru in your heart, which means if you have any problems, place it at his feet and do as he guides you. Your Guru is in your heart. After bowing to him once and then calling me as Father, you can get whatever help you want. If you have any troubles at home, you can place them with me too. To sleep, you need only a simple mattress or mat. Always cover your bed with a white cloth. Take that with you whenever you spend the night elsewhere. While meditating, there should be a cushion on the floor. It is enough to place a small mark on your forehead with sacred ash.
Okay, so here he's saying, before going to bed, every day sit and meditate. And that's a very important thing. And here we can either meditate or we can read some scripture or any divine book, because what we read or what we think of at the last few minutes before we go to bed affects our subconscious mind. So it is during our sleep that we experience a lot that we do not know happens that in the astral world. So try to bring in divine energy into your being while going to bed. Then he says, if you have any problems, place it at my feet or your guru's feet. So that is something that we can all learn as spiritual aspirants. Don't worry about it all night long. Mentally put a mat in front of the God. Take all the worries that you have, put it all there, visualize it if you can. Cover up the bundle and then leave it and say, Appa, Agastya, or Guru, or whatever God, take care of it. And he says, we'll be there to guide you. He says, your Guru is in your heart. So that is something we should always remember. The Guru Sthana is in the Anahata Chakra. And then he says, when bowing to him once and then calling me as Father, you can get whatever help you want. That is how near Appa is with us. Call him, don't fear him. Call him Father and say, help me, and he will help you. So this message is not only for that devotee, it's for all of us. So whenever there's a problem, place the worries at their feet and say, Appa, please help me, and he will guide you one way or the other. Then he says, to sleep, you only need a simple mattress or a mat. Always cover it with a white cloth and take it wherever you go when you spend the night elsewhere. One of the reasons we have to remember this, see, we already know that anything that is manifested in this world has energy, and especially bedding, because people spend half their lifetimes on the bed, right? So that 8-9 hours of time that they spend, that energy is in the matters in the bed. So usually if you keep a white cloth, why is he saying white cloth? And somebody asked me that. And this is what I feel. If you have a white bed sheet, you constantly wash it to keep it clean. So when you go to somebody else's house, you can spread it on the bed that they give you, and the vibrations of the cleanliness will be with you, even though you're sleeping on other mattresses. But it's very important to try uh, to keep your surroundings clean, to be aware of what kind of beds you're going to sleep in, and try to create a barrier between you and the other energy with something that you already possess, which is clean. That is what this means. And then he says, have a cushion on the floor. So there should always be a barrier between you and the earth when you're meditating, because energy flows down. It gets dissipated when you meditate on the plain floor. So always have something to be a cushion between you and the earth. And if you're sitting on a chair, then between your feet and the earth, because we want time when meditating to bring our energy from a kundalini to the sahasrara. So energy flow should be up, not down. Earth has a magnetic force, so it will dissipate. So remember that always when you're meditating. Go ahead, sister.
Yeah. Wear just one rudraksha around your neck. Finally, do not have any worries. If you have any other questions, you can ask me with an open heart. The ensuing question and answer were personal in nature and hence not shared here.
So this is almost at the end of the chapter. So he says, on your person, on a devotee's person, just have a small mark if you need to have, like, kumkum if you're a woman, or a little sacred ash, vibhuti if you want. Don't put too much stuff on your face. And then he says, wear just one rudraksha or one mala or something. Be simple. The whole idea is be simple. Don't give too much importance to your appearance. The more you go spiritually, the lesser importance there should be for your appearance. And then he says, do not have any worries. I am there for you. And that is for every one of us. All of us who feel that our God or Guru is with us, they are there for us. We must believe that. And he says, and then, of course, she had more questions which were very personal in nature. So those were actually written down, but will never be shared because they were personal for that person. So with this, we are going to finish today's satsang and discussions. And if anybody has anything to say, please go ahead. Otherwise, we will meet next week. Anybody? Okay, we'll meet next week.